Hello, everybody. I am thirteene, and I'm actually really excited about this deck tonight. So, we're going to be playing with one of my favorite cards, Ashiok, and we're going to be running an Esper Super Friends pseudo control, pseudo prison list tonight. We also have a bunch of fun, janky cards with some really high card quality, and we're going to be playing tap out control slash prison, and we're going to try to one shot people with the new Kaya. So, yeah, Super Friends. We're actually only running these three, and they're not even four ofs, but they are our core synergy here. So what Kaya does is she exiles cards from a single graveyard. We can gain some incidental life. We can exile any of the cheap threats in Modern, like Death's Shadow, Monastery Swiftspear, with her -1, but the important thing is her ultimate. So she actually ultimates pretty quickly, and we're going to try to make sure that she actually stays alive. Her ultimate is going to deal damage equal to target player equal to the number of cards that player owns in exile. So I think the fair way to play her is supposed to be you keep a long Orzavi grindy game going on. You're slowly chipping away the graveyard, and then after you get to like turn 20 or turn 30, you're pinging them for the last like 15 damage on the table, the last 10 damage, whatever you happen to get to. But we're going to try to abuse that with Ashiok's +2. So Ashiok's +2 is exile the top 3 cards of target opponent's library. So Ashiok is actually kind of the win condition in this deck just through milling. What we end up doing is we end up getting to the point that we get out an ensnaring bridge, we've discarded their hand, we've unmoored ego, their important cards, and Ashiok is just chipping away 3 extra cards on top of their draw every turn. And then Kai is hopefully going to come down and ultimate, and after a couple of turns exiling with Ashiok, Kai is just lethal. But we're going to take away a lot of their library, hopefully exile the important cards off the top. This is a pseudo-mill strategy, but we'll get to that after we see a little bit of gameplay. And then last but not least is Tezzeret. Now, Tezzeret is only a 1-of in this deck. It's really hard to justify playing him, but what he's in here for is an additional copy of Ensnaring Bridge, because we are tap out control. We are dropping something every turn. It's not unheard of for us to put Engineered Explosives out on 1 in the blind just because we want to get cards out of our hand and try to get our control out there. So Tezzeret will come down, tutor up a bridge, or an EE for 0 if we're playing against an unfair strategy like Restore Balance, but he's basically just a tutor piece and can also threaten ultimate. We're not going to do it though, but he's there to tutor out bridge and look like a threat. Then, as I stated, Ensnaring Bridge is going to be one of the primary combo pieces of this deck. We're going to put out our Planeswalkers. We're going to make sure that our opponents can't attack us or our Planeswalkers, so they just sit there and get additional value every turn. We're going to be Thought Seizing, Inquisitioning, pushing, pathing. We're just going to keep our opponent off their game plan. And then, a lot of times, opponents have 1 or 2 cards that that can get them out from under Ensnaring Bridge, and running Unmoored Ego is either going to make it so that our opponent can't Lightning Storm or Lab Maniac if they're ad nauseum. They can't end up casting Gut Shot or Grape Shot or Empty the Warrens if they're Storm. We just get to take out their core combo piece, and this is the control prison part of it, is we're just going to take out the key card that makes their deck work. This card is actually a lot more powerful than I wanted to give it credit for, and when our opponent's just counting on something like an Abrade, Unmoored Ego is just going to make it insanely easy for us to just stop their game plan completely. And then, as I stated, we're actually on the Esper control cards, Path, Push, Thoughtseize, like all these cards end up doing exactly what we want them to in our deck. We're going to put our opponents off tempo, we're going to take away any of their core pieces, we get to look at their hand for Unmoored Ego, and yeah, that's what we're doing. So, looks like our first match got paired up, so let's go ahead and switch on over to that, and we will take the play. Alright, so this hand, aside from only having a Thoughtseize, isn't good enough. We do want to empty our hand, and we won't be empty until at least turn 6, assuming we draw no more lands. And this looks fine. Hopefully Serum Visions can find us a way to get a bridge, but really planning on that. Don't need additional lands. And just in case we care, I'm going to get a basic off of this. We can get all 3 basics and just see what our opponent's up to. Alright, so we already have 1 EE, don't need that. Collective Brutality is going to be good. We gotta look at our opponent's hand, see what's going on, potentially kill a creature if they're an aggro deck. Engineered Explosive Sunburst will destroy anything with converted mana cost equal to the number of colors you put into it. Our opponent looks like they're green-black or possibly Jund. We might get Thoughtseized here. EE can take out Skooz, Goyf, Bob. Yep, there's the Thoughtseize. And be a real heads up if opponent takes Ashiok. If they're Jund, Kolaghan's Command actually does become a concern. But our hand looks pretty crazy from the opponent's side of the table. They take the path. Alright, so I'm getting the read I need to care about their 2-drop here, so I'm going to go ahead and... I need a black source for Ashiok, I need a black source for Collective Brutality. I don't really want to take the shock yet. I'm getting the read that I just want to get this out there and make them a little afraid to commit to a Goyf and try to keep our clock as low as possible. There could be an argument to Collective Brutality. We're probably getting Thoughtseized again, but we don't have a bridge, and that's the only thing I care about losing at the current moment. Oh, okay, so it's Traversive Death Shadow. Alright, so that was a really bad read on my part. We need to have the EE on 1. We're also possibly looking at a Gurmag Angler here. Oh, Swift Spear's fine. Alright, now that Death Shadow is kind of scary. I do care about my life total here. Battle Rage is a definite consideration. I'm just going to grab another... Oh, I can't grab another basic. I need to grab a Godless Shrine so I can Supreme Verdict if we draw into it. But I'm going to... I have to 2-modes this, kill the Swift Spear, and check for a Battle Rage. And that means Ashiok is going away. That doesn't feel great. Really need our bridge, though. Oh boy. So they have the Battle Rage to give double strike, and they also have the Become Immense for 6 more damage. Battle Rage is definitely the most threatening here. We're looking at least 11 damage next turn. They have a shock, so we're looking at 13 damage next turn. We could potentially just be dead if they have a Street Wraith. Turning off auto yield set, they might think we possibly have like a bounce spell or a dispel or something that might actually matter. Wild Nicattle's fine. Alright, well, that's game. They have another land to give this +2/+2, and we know what they drew for turn. It was the Nicattle, so we can just go ahead and go on to game 2. That was just a bad read on my part. So, what do we care about here? Kaya's Wrath is just another board clear. Zealous Persecution doesn't do anything. All their creatures are too big. Meddling Mage could be funny on one of their Battle Rages. This could also be potentially an include for Ancient Grudge, I believe is what this list runs. It's more of a Death Shadow Zoo as opposed to just the Traversive build. That's why we have the Unmoored Ego, but it means that they also have Lightning Bolts, which make Meddling Mage significantly worse. A lot of this package is in here for control because we are tap out and we basically live on top decks. Some of these cards give us a lot more value late game, and Battle Rage and Become Immense could be considerations for Dispel, but if we get a bridge out early and can name a Braid and or Ancient Grudge, we're probably going to be better off. Not a huge fan of Brutality in this matchup. That means probably at least one Meddling Mage is coming in. Thoughtseize also feels bad against the aggressive deck, so I could just see that package. And we are currently down a game. Alright, so we have turn 1 Meddling Mage, turn 2 Rip. Or sorry, turn 1 EE, turn 2 Meddling Mage or Rip. I like that. So what's our sequencing here? We need to get black for sure. Looks like it's a Godless Shrine off the Pluto Delta. So we'll see if we draw another land that's not nearly as painful and go ahead and start our EE. EE should protect us against like 60% of the threats in their deck. I believe this version is running Hooting Mandrill because of the trample over Gurmag Angler. And we have a Thoughtseize in our feature. We don't. Okay, well, Swift Spear still hurts. And this means we can just grab a basic here. I'm inclined to Rip, just that Become Immense is off the table. Meddling Mage would potentially name... they're probably going to just drop 2 threats next turn, so I can't imagine I actually care about naming anything here. So I'm good to get Rip out just to make sure there's no Delve shenanigans going on. This isn't doing a whole lot, but it does stop some of their bigger threats. It also makes sure that Ancient Grudge isn't a double artifact removal. And opponent targets us. Yep, there's the Thoughtseize, as expected. I assume they're taking Meddling Mage here? I don't know. All of these are good options. We don't have the last land for Supreme Verdict, though, and we do have everything currently on the table answered. Yeah, I'm not even sure what the right call is here. It might be Ashiok, just because it's our biggest threat. Yep, takes Ashiok. Alright, and we get another white source. So this is going to go grab blue. Then Meddling Mage. I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to name here. Bolt is a really good consideration because they probably have Bolt. I'm pretty sure they showed us Goyf. No, they didn't show us Goyf yet, but I do know that this list runs it. I think Bolt, it's just a 4 of, and would just kill the Meddling Mage anyway. So opponent knows about our Supreme Verdict, they don't know about the land. They're probably not going to be able to commit any more creatures to the board for the current moment. Which means this EE should be buying us like 2 turns against a Death Shadow. We do still have to fear Battle Rage in I guess, not become immense anymore, but... Alright, so there's their green source. There's a cattle. Wow. Alright. Right now, EE is covering both their creatures, so Supreme Verdict's not really doing anything. So I actually want to take this damage. If I blow up the board, then they can commit another creature. That would force the Supreme Verdict. I'm going to take 3 for this turn. Inquisition is a card I'm quite happy to see. See what's going on over on our opponent's side. Alright, so they do have the Hooting Mandrills. They have the Battle Rage, Faith Shield will give creatures protection from a color. That doesn't really affect anything currently in our hand, and a bunch of 1-drops. So, the EE is protecting these 2 creatures from coming down. Unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to blow the EE here pretty soon, so that means that the Battle Rage has to go away. Yeah, if we had EE on 1 in the previous game, we would have had a really good shot. Now we're just looking for one of our Planeswalkers. Or an Ensnaring Bridge. Both would be fantastic. And unfortunately, think this means I'm blowing it now. They can run out both of their 2 1-drops, but Swift Spear still can't attack in, and Death Shadow is currently going to be a 3/3. That will get Supreme Verdict away. And Water Grave's the last shock that we haven't pulled yet. Oh boy. Alright, so opponent can make this Death Shadow unblockable. A fetch land will make it a 6/6. We'll go to 1. That means Swift Spear comes down with a fetch land. Faith Shield makes it lethal. That's rough. So I think that actually means, is this all creatures? Each permanent gains protection. So yeah, we're dead if we don't actually activate this now. So now we just need to find a way to answer that Swift Spear, and unfortunately it's going to have protection from a color for at least a turn. There's a Swift Spear. Ooh, and another Swift Spear. Alright. EE would be great, another board clear would be great. Ensnaring Bridge, instead we get a Marsh Flash, which means if we crack this, we're dead. Not a great showing. Look at all those lands. So it's turn 7, and we've seen 10 lands. Alright, that's game. They get 2 Prowess triggers, 1 from Thoughtseize, 1 from Faith Shield. Wow, what a rough start. Yeah, I'm not really sure what else to say about that. Bad reading game 1, game 2 is just a lot more mana than we'd like to see against any kind of an aggressive deck. We even had to mulligan the 6-lander in game 2. So currently our sideboard is tuned for dealing with Hardened Scale's Affinity with the Stony Silences, any of the control matchups with Notion Thief and Teferi, some of the go-wide strategies with Zealous Persecution, and Meddling Mage kind of just as a catch-all to name any kind of problem spell or permanent. We do run 2 Rips main board. We can't deal with a lot of the recursive threats because we are tap out, slam our hand down, go empty-handed, but Rip is really good against a lot of the different strategies in the format. We did see it be a little dead against Sue there, but it still is super good against like Storm and Phoenix and a lot of the other strategies. Alright, so this hand is turn 1, Watery Grave into Inquisition, turn 2 Thoughtseize or EE, turn 3 Kaya. I'm on board since we're on the draw. And we're playing against Dredge, which is another reason to have mainboard Rips. Starting with green? Elf. Okay, I'm not sure I know what we're playing against, but EE's probably going to come through kind of clutch here, so let's go ahead and take a look-see. What wants Nettle Sentinel and Copperline Gorge? Ooh. So, green and red elves. I have not seen this variant before. They must really like Bloodbraid Elf. Alright, so Heritage Druid here is going to tap the Nettle Sentinel for a lot of mana. Elvish Visionary can redraw a card, but what they were planning on doing next turn was hopefully drawing a mana source, going Heritage Druid Llanowar, tapping for 3 mana, Elvish Visionary. Heritage Druid just combos way too hard with the Sentinel already on the field. If they don't draw a card, they're going to put out the Llanowar Elf, which means that will be closer to EE. Which it looks like they whiffed on, so Llanowar is just coming down more than likely. Alright, and so I can Thoughtseize away the Elvish Visionary, but that's going to take 2 life. I'll also see what card they drew, and then I'll have EE for the following turn. I'm pretty happy with that. If they drew another 1 mana thing, it means that they won't be casting their 2 mana, and hopefully this EE will be a 3 for 1. So, Godless Shrine it is. It can be tapped. Although that was poor sequencing, I probably should have actually led on the Thoughtseize so I could see the last card that they drew. Alright, so they got their land, which means this EE is going to be a 2 for 1. And Mana Base is doing all kinds of damage to ourselves, but Explosives will clear the board, Shaman will be a non-threat, and they'll be a ways off from the Bloodbraid. Kaya can start gaining us life back. If they didn't draw a card for each card replaced, this would be fantastic against the Bloodbraid in hand. So Kaya's coming down first just because I want to start regaining some of the life that we lost. And if one of those is a creature, we gain 2 life. So just going to slowly start picking away. Another Heritage Druid is fine. Actually, I think I might be taking that with Kaya. We know 3 cards in hand. If they draw another 1 mana elf. Yeah, I just want to keep their board clear. This Shaman's actually representing a lot of life loss on our side, so and this is where we get our Planeswalker value on. So grabbed an Elvish Champion and a Dwinnen's Elite. Alright, I want to see what else might possibly in their deck. I'm going to Unmoored Ego away the Shaman here. So 2 more Heritage Druids and another Bloodbraid. So Shaman is representing a way to get reach over our Ensnaring Bridge, which is why I want to take it here. I guess they don't have black yet. I still do want to see what else is left in their hand, but Shaman is going to be one of the long-term problems this deck is going to have to deal with, so... they had 2 in hand. Hopefully that doesn't draw them into some good gas here. They had Izuri, that was about it in their deck. I should have been a little more disciplined to take it a screenshot and actually gone over some of their deck building choices, but... Alright, so they got Alanda and Nettle Sentinel. We'll see what they think the problem is. I think it's Ashiok, alright. Alright, a lot of elves on the table, but we're hopefully going down to 1 card in hand, which means the Mystic's the only thing that should be able to attack. Except for the fact that our deck really loves us. Alright, well let's keep it going. They have Rex Sage main board. Okay, that's something I didn't see. So I can exile, I can push, I can put out the bridge, and then a 2/2 can still get in. Or I have to get out the bridge, otherwise Bloodbraid's attacking in. They currently have 2 in hand. Alright, so Kaya exiling the Nettle Sentinel. Ensnaring Bridge will make it so that only a 2/2 can get in. But I'm going to push during their turn, hopefully thinking that they can tap this down for a Bloodbraid Elf, then go down to 2 cards in hand. Yep. As expected. They revealed a collected company. Alright, and then we take out the elite, then only the Mystic can get in. And that's what our deck's trying to do. Then the last card we can take is Thoughtseize for the Bloodbraid Elf, and yep, opponent knows it's locked up. Alright, so go wide strategy. Board clear number 2 comes in, especially the one that gains us life. Zealous Persecution can take out all of their little mana dorks. Meddling Mage can name the Reclamation Sage, the Collected Company. Same reason we have the Unmoored Ego. Dispel for Collected Company seems bad. They likely don't have any targeted removal in their deck. Fathom Feeder didn't get a highlight spot in the deck tech. What it does is it's blue and a black for a devoid, meaning it's colorless. Death Touch, Ingest. Ingest says that if it makes combat damage contact to a player, they exile the top card of their library, which helps our Kaya strategy. And then we can also pay 5 mana to draw a card, and each opponent exiles the top card of their library. We usually don't activate this, but it does give us a little bit more reach in game 1 versus control strategies or to try to draw into an out. But here, Death Touch is not super relevant, and it's definitely coming out for the Meddling Mage. The Rest in Pieces, I think I already mentioned, taking those out, they don't really help the Elf strategy. Tezzeret still will go grab our Bridge. EE is still good versus 1 and 2 drops. Thoughtseize versus the aggro deck isn't really my favorite, but we're probably going to keep it around. Collected Brutality can kill a creature, so it's probably better than Thoughtseize. Can also snag a Coco. But also on the cut list. Yeah, so it's either these 2 or these 2, and I'm not really sure which one I'd prefer. I don't like having to discard cards to this, but if we do get stuck with cards in hand, I probably like it. I'm also expecting opponents' red strategy to mean that they can bring in Blood Moon. So Coco, life loss. Coco, life loss. I think it's the life loss just because they are technically an aggro deck. Also expecting Pithy Needle from them. I don't have a good reason for that other than the fact that it's colorless and probably one of the few ways they can interact with Planeswalkers. We have an Inquisition into a Collective Brutality into our Planeswalkers. It might be slow for elves, but it's what our deck is trying to do. And they get their Mana Dork. So need to get black here. We currently have 2 white sources. I have to take a shock, which means we want blue. Alright, so next turn was going to be double Heritage Druid into Uzuri or Arch Druid. That's going to be Heritage Druid down. So Cavern's coming down, Heritage Druid, and then I'm probably snagging a Heritage Druid with this. No, I don't think I can actually collect a Brutality yet. I have to kill this Uzuri with it. Or possibly the Arch Druid. Oh, thank you. Thank you for not doing... This is kind of greedy from opponent given our colors and our strategy. I will 100% kill that. And I don't see any reason to discard anything currently in hand. Alright, so is this Uzuri? Nope, now they're taking the slower roll. Likely going to be 2... It can't be 2 elves, so this is just going to be Uzuri. Choke. Alright. So I can... Engineered Explosives for 3. I had Mortify in the deck at one point in time, but I guess I took that out. Kai is going to be slow, Ashiok's going to be slow, and more Ego is going to be quite bad. I can't even Ashiok or Kaya off of this mana base. That may have actually stolen the game from us. That was an early choke. So that means Azuri's coming down, and we're going to be on like a 3-turn clock. I can Ensnaring Bridge, but it won't do anything because it can activate that after they attack. Yep, as expected. So Flooded Strand can get me a Watery Grave, but that just won't get untapped. I can 3 mana into Ensnaring Bridge. Ooh, boy. So how much damage am I looking at right now if they drop a land? It's going to be Overrun. So 5, 9... If they have a land and I crack this fetch, I'm dead. But I kind of want to see exactly how they sideboarded, so I'll know what to call the following game. Or I could potentially just run this out, hope that they don't have a land off the top of their deck, and then I can draw into EE to blow away Choke, and then have no mana left to die. Yep, so we're on Unmoored Ego and then die. We want, I guess, Reclamation Sage? One Rec Sage. This time I'm going to take a closer look. So 2 Abrupt Decays, 3 Blood Moons, I was correct in that. 2 Chokes, a Hazoret. Lead the Stampede for card advantage. Alright, so the Collective brutalities were the correct call then. Just that there aren't questions. Snippety snippety. And let's see if we die. So if they whiff lands for 2 turns, we can still get EE active, but that doesn't feel like it's winning. This is currently going to be 9 damage off of Ezurian Heritage Druid. Might have mistapped that if they're activating Ezuri. There we go. Get in for 9, and then we'll kill ourselves off the Hollowed Fountain. We couldn't kill ourselves off the Hollowed Fountain. Alright, well, being on the play should help when they're trying to do a 2-mana thing. Hero's Downfall won't help. Teferi really won't help. I want the Thoughtseizes on the play now, after what we saw. Means Tezzeret can probably come out just because Choke's going to really hurt on Tezzeret, and then probably just Zealous Persecution? That just feels so good. Maybe over a Meddling Mage. Alright, we have a basic. It's not good enough. It doesn't do anything on its own. Then no lands. Oh, that's awful. Marsh Flats is keepable, though. So we're going to draw the Marsh Flats. Unmoored Ego can go to bottom. Ashiok can really just need that 3rd land. Ashiok would be really good behind the Ensnaring Bridge, but I think she has to go to the bottom. Right. Yep. Seems right. So Marsh Flats can get us a Plains, and Polluted Delta can get us a Swamp, assuming that they're not going to put out a Red Source and a Blood Moon here. Alright, then this is 3 mana, probably into... Okay. And I am still very afraid of the Blood Moon, so I'm going to grab basics. And seeing as how we have 2 Ensnaring Bridges, looking back at their deck, they have 1 Reclamation Sage and 2 Abrupt Decays. So that's putting me on wanting to grab the Abrupt Decays. So Rec Sage can hit 1, and then the other one will be good. So Unmoored Ego here for Abrupt Decay. They had 1 in hand, as well as a Shaman of the Pact. And... Yep, just the 1 Rec Sage. So we probably are going to have them locked out here pretty soon. Of note, if they end up dropping Choke and we don't see another land, this could go pretty bad just because we need to hit a third mana here for Ensnaring Bridge. It'll make it so that we can't cast things. but we knew about the shaman and the land. Oh boy. So 5 for 1? I like 5 for 1. Be on the table for 3. And I could blow it immediately, but I glanced over at the deck list and there's nothing that would punish me immediately for it. They do have one more shaman in the pack to be afraid of, though. And unfortunately, we're taking beats for 3 for another turn. Land would be great. Not a land. And also can't double spell. I think that's just game. Oh no, we can target ourselves as Inquisition. Awesome. I should have seen that line. I really should have seen that line. Alright, Flooded Strand makes me happy. If I crack the fetch and they draw Shaman of the Pact, we die. I could Zealous Persecution now, but I'd prefer to get a couple of the smaller creatures with it. I think we're just getting a Plains. You're running out this Ensnaring Bridge. And this Thoughtseize is going to kill us. Amazing. Alright, so... would love a Kaya. Kaya wouldn't tap our island and also let us start gaining life. Unmoored Ego. Alright, so let's take a look at their deck again. So I don't care about Choke, I do care about Coco, I do care about this last Reclamation Sage, but not a whole lot. Hazaret can shoot me over the Ensnaring Bridge. And the Shaman can kill me on the spot. So Coco can hit the Shaman. I think that's putting me on Shaman. But that's leaving me a lot of ways to die. I really just want to find one of my Planeswalkers. Is that so much to ask for? We have 6 of them? We've seen a third of our deck. Alright, I think Inquisition might be our best draw here. And we're just dead. Should have Thoughtseized, but wow, that is rough. This deck did so well, and now just not drawing the right cards. When I play tested it, we went 4-1. Oh, did I update the wrong record? Yeah, we are currently 0-2, not 1-0. It felt amazing shooting people with Kaya for 40, and I did it like every game. But just not seeing the planeswalkers or the bridges. It's one or the other this game. Yeah, I'm not really sure what to say. Like, it just, we're not seeing the right cards. The couple of changes that I made was I went down a couple of Fathom Feeders, but they didn't really ever draw us cards that seemed fine. Unmoored Ego, costing a little bit more, did raise our curve, but all 4 copies in the main deck. Let's see. This is what I was running. I had the Mortify main board just for unconditional removal. Had a search for his content to help filter. I actually feel like that might have been a mistake. Being able to filter was actually quite nice. Wasn't running the big Tezzeret, but we haven't even really seen him yet for that to matter. Did have an extra Collective Brutality to help empty our hand. That also might have been a mistake to trim on. But we ended up bringing in the Unmoored Egos and ended up cutting a couple of Dispels from the side to put the Unmoored Egos main and then Meddling Mages in the side. Like, losing to that weird Jund Elves feels bad. I honestly don't think we should have lost that. This deck was performing quite well in the test run. What did we play first? I don't know why I can never remember these. Yep, and no opponents seem to want to... Oh yeah, it was... I actually think I played that in the test run. That was the 4-color Death Shadow. Yeah, I'm not really sure what to say. Like, it just performed like butter. I think we lost 4 matches across all 5 games, or 4 rounds, whatever you want to call it. We will take the play. Single land isn't going to cut it. And that looks a little bit more like our speed. So this hand doesn't look like it does much, but it's Collective Brutality so that we can potentially escalate, take care of a problem, duress. And there goes our bridge, making this hand terrible. Oh, they took the Brutality? I wonder if we're playing against 8-rack. Okay, we need blue. Either that or they're following it up with another discard next turn. So they did know our hand. The Godless Shrine there was just that we didn't take the additional shock. Plus, I'm expecting bridge to get discarded. There it is. Flooded Strand, huh? Alright, what am I getting off of this? So it's either tokens, fairies, some control list. I think I have to save the EE. If it's fairies, I probably want to run this out on 2, potentially 0. More than likely 2, though, for Bitter Blossom. Oh, it's Mardu Pyromancer with a Flooded Strand? Alright, so EE should have been on 0 or 2. I have no idea what we're playing against. I do know I can't let that Search for his Con to stay around, so we're just going to blow it up now. This is a 1-for-1. It's a bad 1-for-1, but it is a 1-for-1. Search for his Conta usually means that they're not going to be sticking too many creatures to the board, so I'm likely looking at blowing up tokens with this, if anything. I'm not going to get high enough to blow up a Jace or to Fairy or anything along those lines, although I'm still not quite sure what opponent's doing. They're 4-color control. Ha! Showed you. I'm expecting a Snapcaster out of them at the bare minimum. On the plus side, though, whenever you're playing in Draw Go, it's typically better that you're making your land drops. It's not ideal that we're not seeing any of our lands, or any of our threats, but we're hitting land drops and they're not. This might be Snap Opt. Hi, Snappy Boy. And I can't let this stick around for too long, and Snaring Bridge probably isn't going to do a whole lot against our opponent's strategy. And proper sequencing would probably let them resolve the opt before I push it, so that they don't know that they don't have a creature on board, but in control matchups like this, they hardly care. I'm expecting Kolaghan's Command out of them to pick it back up anyway. Which might have been a reason to path, but don't want them to hit land drops if they're falling behind and trying to play a long control strategy. There's the K command. And we're drawing a lot of pseudo blank removal. And opponent's tanking really hard. Like, they've got to have some kind of a threat. Like, it's probably not apparent what we're doing, but they've been cantripping for days and still haven't figured out what they want to do. Like, they have Snapcaster. I guess they decided not to snap K command. Well, that's a card I'm kind of happy to see. It's going to get countered, but I'm kind of happy to see it. Because I can't figure out why this deck would want white. Helix Path? Bolt? Alright, well, Snappy Boy goes down. That path really isn't going to have a target, and you're going to have to double bolt one of our planeswalkers. Are they really trying to figure out if they want to just bolt us here? Okay. I'm fine with that. Those paths are blanks. And you are right on time, my lovely lady. I just realized we only have one blue. Yeah, that's right. Read Ashiok. 3-mana Planeswalkers! They are a Bitter Blossom. Okay. So they are some 4-color hybrid tokens fairies control. One more tick up and Ashiok's out of double bolt range. Alright, so Bolt, Inquisition, Path. Unmoored Ego. So I can expect discard out of our opponent. Although we've seen 4 Inquisitions, they might not be on Bolt. Let's see. So I'm expecting their big threat to be Teferi at this point. Bitter Blossom is definitely a potential finisher. K-Command's going to be their highest value card, but we've already taken 1 out, and I think at most they run 2 to 3. Snapcaster is probably the best value that they still have 3 of left in their deck, but I want to take a look anyway, so we'll see if they have a counterspell. I think we're on Snapcaster. Yep, they still have 3 left in the deck, 3 empty paths in hand. They are on Thing in the Ice, Bitter Blossom. I have no idea what's going on here. It doesn't look like our opponent's deck is threat dense enough to actually get anything done, but Snippy Snippy. And bam. Gotta get the one out of the graveyard, because in that way you actually... they can't pick it up with K-Command. Oh, I got a Thing in the Ice off of Ashiok. That works. I could always put it out just that they could path it. They have 3 paths in hand. Oh, they got one. Nope. And we got land, bolt, opt. Oh, sorry, that's not how that works. EE is the number of colors put into it. This will take out Bitter Blossom and Thing in the Ice. And opponent's pretty hard locked. I don't think they want to admit it, but they are pretty hard locked. We're probably actually going to mill them this game. Lands in another Bitter Blossom. They only had 1 left in the deck, which means they have 2 Thing in the Ice left that could still finish the game. And EE's covering that. Yeah, alright, there we go. So, against Bitter Blossom, Zealous Persecution looks pretty good. We'll kill all their little tokens. This is the control matchup. Teferi comes in, Notion Thief comes in, Dispel comes in. Meddling Mage, I'm not sure how to feel. They have paths and bolts. Paths at the bare minimum are probably coming out, but this still dies to the left half of Kolaghan's command. It still dies to Bolt and Lightning Helix, and they're probably keeping all that in because they're trying the Bolt, Snap, Bolt tempo play. So I'm not overly happy about those. I'm also not overly happy about these. Thing in the Ice is technically a threat. I think that's enough reason to have Ensnaring Bridge, although they have K-Command, so just all the fun stuff. Hero's Downfall killing a Thing in the Ice seems mildly relevant. These are the things I'm not overly excited about, but are probably keeping. EE still blows up almost all their threats on 2. Unmoored Ego, they're not very threat dense. Push Inquisition Thoughtseize. Less inclined on Thoughtseize since I've seen how burny they are. It's currently 5, 6, 7, 8. Supreme Verdict not being able to be countered is good. I'm not sure if I want Kaya's Wrath. At best, I get a couple of fairy tokens, and Zealous Persecution can do that. All the little removal seems really good. I'm feeling less inclined on Bridge, although if we stick one, we're probably winning. Rip seems very good against their deck. Notion Thief dying to everything doesn't seem great, but flashing it in over a Serum Visions seems pretty good. Maybe just trim an Ensnaring Bridge. We can still tutor it up with Tezzeret anyway. Tezzeret would probably be the other cut. And this is a very pretty hand. I get to see how they sideboarded. I have a counter spell. I have an Inquisition to look at their current hand. We're likely getting discarded anyway because they are, I'm going to call them Grixis Control splashing white. Because that's what their deck is trying to do, is K-Command, Snapcaster, and Bolt. This means probably Opt and or Bolt. There's the Bolt. There's Bitter Blossom. Counter Squall can get hit by Dispel, so I'll just make sure to do stuff on turn 4. I don't care about the Bolt. They can opt however they want to, but the Bitter Blossom currently doesn't have a plan for it. Yep, there's the opt. So they drew the Serum Visions, but it's going to redraw anyway. And they put a card on top and a card on bottom, but they didn't crack their fetch before Serum Visions. I know I've been guilty of that quite a bit myself, but that is missequencing. I'm going to leave this up so I can Dispel if I have to. I'm not going to run out Serum Visions off of a shock. There's just no point to. And then the Watery Grave can set us up for the following turn. This will be grabbing us a blue source. Alright, so they drew the card on top with Serum Visions and recast. Again, they left this uncracked. Not really sure what to make of that. Because they have another Polluted Delta. Okay, so they drew a Blood Crypt. Serum Visions is one on top, one on bottom. And opponent didn't leave up 2 mana for Counter Squall, which potentially means Spell Pierce. Could also mean Spell Snare. Alright, so we know 3 cards in hand. I know I'm doing something for 3 mana, I just don't know what it is. So I can Unmoored Ego, K-Command, take a look at how they sideboard, and then Bridge should be safe, and then we can just slowly run out our stuff. I can take out the Counter Squall, knowing they probably have 2 to 3 of them. I could just run out Ashiok, who's going to survive at least a single Bolt. I think Ashiok getting countered by Spell Pierce is the worst play I could make. I can Inquisition, make sure the way is clear, take the Counter Squall, Serum Vision, set up my turn, and have Dispel. Serum Visions can try to get me my 4th land so I can Ashiok and Dispel the following turn. I like that. Show me what you got. Oh, they have 2 K-Commands. Oh, I was so close to Unmoored Ego, K-Command. Alright, we'll take Counter Squall. Serum Visions, let's see what's on top. Yay, a land! Yay, a land! Boo, Fatal Push. And then this allows me to not take a shock for a Dispel I'm probably not going to use anyway. But I know opponent's hand is K-Command, Bolt, Polluted Delta. Alright, so of note, 4-color deck looks like it trimmed white completely. If they don't have a use for Path, they might be able to just take out all the white mana. So they drew Serum Visions for turn, so that's still a fresh card. Boo! Not cool. They took the Unmoored Ego. I guess that makes sense. Alright, so I have blue, white, black. I have black, blue, which means I need white. Probably blue since I brought in dispels. Ooh, Kaya's good. Kaya's really good. So Kaya comes down. They have to shoot a bolt at it, and then K command it. I'll dispel it, and then she'll be up for at least another turn. I can take out some of the cards in their graveyard they actually probably care about. White, black. Ashiok could also just start chipping away at their deck. I think Kaya's highest upside. And I don't like Counter Squall, and I don't like Discard in case you get a Snapcaster. As expected. And then I have Dispel for K Command whenever they decide to go for it. Snapcaster. Boo Hiss. For Serum Visions? I mean, they know about the Dispel, but you think they have to get it out of my hand. And they did that. They should know their life total doesn't matter that much. Now they can't cast Bolt if they draw it. I'm not a fan of that line. Alright, take out the Bolt. Take out probably Op because it's instant speed. Then K Command can still kill Kaya. I think I'm just on Fatal Push. They know our hand, and I need to hold up the Dispel. Push was a decent draw, though. They got value out of the Snapcaster, but it means Kaya's going to be alive. Yep, try to pick up Snappy, try to kill Kaya. And did you draw a Dispel in 2 cards? Guess not. Now you need a Bolt? These 3-mana Planeswalkers are definitely showing their power here, though. Opponent's Snapcaster K-commanding, and I'm kind of just sitting back, pacing myself, and doing what I need to, and getting nutritional value out of these Planeswalkers, applying pressure to what opponent's doing. Part of the problem with the tap-out control is if you see multiples of these Planeswalkers, you can't really run them out, but you need to see them in order to actually further your game plan. So you probably want 4, but you also can't run 4. That was bad sequencing. Now if they have a Snapcaster, they get to run it out. Although they can't target anything sorcery speed. Okay, that's fine. I got a Geist out of that. Spicy. Alright, well, just continue chipping at the graveyard, and as long as this opponent has this K command, I don't want to put out my bridge. Plus, now I'm probably bringing Geist back. I really... Yeah, they've got to run out Snapcaster as an ambush Viper just to have a shot of taking down these Planeswalkers. Ensnaring Bridge is going to be actively bad for my Geist, though. Oh. Well, that's fine. Going after Kaya. They recognize that they have 14 cards in exile, 15 with Geist. And Kaya is going to be putting at least 2 more back in by the time that she ults. Now they're just blowing the K command. Yep. Moderate value from opponent, but I get to get their Geist now. Geist costs 3, just double checking. Come out and play. Alright. They have colonnades too? Feels so greedy. Dispel's not bad. Good to keep an... I think I just want another Planeswalker. Even if they get a thing in the ice, they can't flip it, and I'm currently ahead on board. Do I really want to trade Geist for Snapcaster? Let's take a look at opponent's stock deck first. So they had 4 Snapcasters, they had Bolts and Helixes that can't target it. I wouldn't put it past them to put in Crackling Doom. Target player sacrifices creature with highest power, and they lose life equal to it. Search for his Kanta can be bad for us. I think I'm just getting in with Geist. If they want to make this trade, it just means my Ashiok's safe. And if they don't, it means Ashiok's taking 2, and I really don't care. Already seen most of their K commands, so they're likely not picking Geist back up. I should have waited a turn. We had 5 pieces of removal. Ooh, Snapcaster. Alright, I like that. Scratch that, I love that. That's good, Snappy Boy. What do I get to do with your Snapcaster? Probably Unmoored Ego? They only had 1 search for his Kanta. I can Serum Visions to try to find another Kaya. I don't know, I think I'm just winning, because they're going to be milled in 6 turns. I got the search anyway. Helix targeting me? That's fine. If they put any cards on top, we're taking them with Ashiok, so I'm not really a huge fan of this play. It looks like mill's going to be our win condition as it is anyway. Put a card on top. Yep, game's over. Alright. I was playtesting Modern with one of my friends, and we were playing Blue-White Control versus Green-Black, and it was a long interactive game, and he's not used to playing those games in Modern. It was like, I didn't even realize that this is what this format is because of how ridiculous it can go. I'm not a huge fan of this, but if that sees a land drop, it's fine. Just because it's a long, drawn-out game with when you're interacting with your opponent, and most of the time it's like Dredge just trying to kill you as fast as possible, Affinity trying to kill you as fast as possible. And like, it's funny that some people don't even realize that those games can go on if you're actually controlless and actually figure out how to make it so that your decisions are actually impactful for something. And that was a pretty good interactive game where like everything the opponent did was... Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. I am a fan of this. But like opponent had to know when to K command, what to pick up. I had to know when to try to push the cards in my hand. Like it's funny how different games of Modern can end up acting different ways depending on what you're playing. If you're just used to playing a single linear strategy, you don't get to see all the fun interactive games that go towards milling your opponent out. Alright, well that would have been nice last turn, but for now, I think since opponent's mana screwed, I want to Ashiok just so I can see more cards. So if they just concede, I'll actually have an idea of what's going on. And it looks like they're green-black. I took 3 lands from them, I just realized that. That's awesome. Hello, Tireless Tracker. I'd love a tracker. I get a Kalatos, as well as another land and a Lily. Alright, well... time to confuse the crap out of our opponents. Yep. They've seen enough. So green-black, this is going to be an attrition war. Notion Thief won't do much unless I go to crack a clue. Hero's Downfall can target Lily of the Veil, which is the main reason it's in there. Meddling Mage for Assassin's Trophy Abrupt Decay. Teferi to draw out the opponent. Zealous is bad. Rip is mediocre. Rip is good for specifically just Tormagoyf. We did see a Kalatos in this matchup, which means that it takes out the if a creature an opponent controls would die, but they don't have a way to give us a creature, so and we're not really running too many creatures. So that's not super relevant. Dispel hitting Assassin's Trophy is a mild consideration, still not a huge fan of it. Kaya's Wrath and Supreme Verdict are going to more than likely be 1-for-1s, but they're non-conditional 1-for-1s. They're also expensive, so kind of on the iffy game plan. Tezzeret to get Bridge doesn't seem very important when they have unconditional ways to remove it. Collective Brutality, I don't... Well, first things first, let's actually take out these 5, because you don't want to draw a discard in top deck wars, and this is 100% turning into a top deck war. Because of that, Collective Brutality loses some value. It also isn't going to kill many creatures. It can snag a Scooz on turn 2, but that's not a good reason to keep it. The Duress is irrelevant, and the life gain is probably irrelevant. Tezzeret to get Bridge just feels so bad. Our curve also got atrocious. Look at all those 3-drops. Yes, 1 Inquisition's better than nothing. Actually, I think I'm a fan of Rip over Inquisition, because that does make it so that a lot of their Goyfs don't have power. Although that means that they'd get in under Bridge. I'm assuming my Bridge isn't sticking around from Abrupt Decay and Assassin's Trophy. Alright, unconditional removal, 2 bridges, and Ashiok. I have to draw a land, Fathom Feeder's dead. This is a 60% keep. I really need an additional land, and I actually need that land to be either blue or black. We're on the draw, and we have a path. You don't want to ever path on turn 1, but we actually have something going on. Plus, they usually like to discard our hand, so... that is actually A-okay. So that means turn 2 Fathom Feeder. If they drop a Goyf or something that's just a beater for 2. Okay, that might get pathed. How do I feel about that? I feel like that has to get pathed. And we don't want them to go to upkeep so that they don't draw a card. Usually it's typically correct to path in your opponent's upkeep, but they can drop Lily here. I'm fine with them dropping Lily here. We'll probably EE for 3 if they drop Lily. Or Inquisition us. So Inquisition probably taking EE or Ashiok, depending on what they want to do for turn. I could definitely see them take EE and then drop Lily. I could also see them take Ashiok and drop a Tormagoyf. Or they're staring at this Fathom Feeder like, WTF is this thing? There's Ashiok, which means we probably have another beater coming down. Oh, they missed their land drop. Alright, since they lost their land drop, Kaya's coming down. The longer she stays on the battlefield, the better, and Fathom Feeder being able to defend it seems great. If we get Assassin's Trophy, we get an additional land drop. That means Fathom Feeder's coming down as well as EE for 2. Bye-bye. And I wouldn't put it past them to have choke. I'm just going to grab the swamp. Do they really not have another play? There's Mizurgoif. Oh boy. Alright, so Unmoored Ego is a real draw. I just need to be sure, though. Because I know what my list is running, but I'm not exactly sure what the stock lists are running. So it's 1 Abrupt Decay, 3 Assassin's Trophies. I've already used one, and then the 1 Pull. So that's actually pretty close to what I'm running. Unmoored Ego could grab 2 Assassin's Trophies if that's the case. I think I'm just on Fathom Feeder. And they are not red, which means they don't have Kolaghan's Command, which means EE for 2 is going to deal with, I think, 60% of their creatures. It's Stark Confidant, Skoos, Goyf, and then they usually have Tireless Trackers on the top end. Their lilies will be saved from the EE, but lame. Well, at least they didn't escalate it. I'd love a land so I could Ensnare and Bridge and EE if need be. Hey, would you look at that? Alright, so Godless Shrine. You know what, screw it, I'm going for broke. They have a Goyf and a Blooming Marsh in hand. I didn't take a screenshot again. My head is not in this game. And I don't think OBS has a really nice convenient rewind feature. But I'll take my beats for 4, hold up EE, that's going to get us pretty far. Path is a good backup plan. What does this mean? They're likely going to take the Ensnaring Bridge, which means I keep the path. If I path now, it means they have to take Ensnaring Bridge. I have nothing in hand. I think I just have to give them the option. Yep, so I still think they can deal with 1 Ensnaring Bridge, so I should have looked at their deck. The spell's not terrible. Hello, Tireless Tracker. And I'm pathing here. They get a Field of Ruin in response and get a clue, but I don't really care. I don't want to allow them to untap, play a land for turn, draw a card, then Field of Ruin. Yep. just complete our basic suite here. Mr. Kalitas. Luckily, we don't have too many creatures. Oh boy. I want both of these. I think I want Teferi first. And then I can't fetch. They're going to crack a clue here. I put 2 on top, which means they need a Field of Ruin here, but we'll see if they get that read. Guess not. And I wanted to put Teferi first, but that's fine. If they Field of Ruin here, I'll be a little sad, but Teferi's not necessarily going to win this game for us. Plus, you also see the awkwardness between Ensnaring Bridge and needing to keep your hand empty with Teferi drawing cards, and it's not very synergistic, but there's a reason we bring it in for these grindy matchups, and it's because we absolutely have to. Is this a Bob? Only draining me for 2. Okay. And as long as they made a shuffle, just going to go get a land tapped. Rather not draw it. And there's Kaya. So they're going to be able to counter the life gain off of Kaya. Which might have been a reason to blow up the Scavenging Ooze before I played Kaya, but it's fine. This is going to force them to eat it with Scavenging Ooze. They'll gain the life, but Ooze will get too big for the bridge. Also tax their mana, because pretty soon Kaya is going to be gaining us a ton of life when we ultimate them. And then again, this is where I wish I looked at their deck better. I'm just going to call Abrupt Decay, because that's going to be the one that most likely is going to get through my Dispel. If they end up killing the Meddling Mage, who cares? I'm probably going to end up blowing it up with the EE before they can deal with it anyway. Oh, they kept in Fatal Push. Interesting. You gonna eat it, buddy? Yep. 1 life doesn't, or 2 life doesn't mean anything to me off of Kaya. I actually would have been eating their graveyard still because I want to ping them for multiple damage. Oh, we did have a Fathom Feeder in there. Fun. Alright, that hero's downfall is also pretty good insurance. So this is looking pretty locked up for us, unless they have a way to deal 6 damage to us with like a Torment of Hellfire or something really random. Yep, no Snapcasters. We run main board rip. Yep. Yep. Do you want me to say yep again? I mean, I can't fault them. They have no idea what we're doing. I'm going to be conservative here and just shoot with Kaya. Pretty big life swing, and then we're still super far ahead. If we had Ashiok, this would be going significantly better. Opponent did gain around 10 life this game so far already, though. Howdy, Mr. Goif. Beefy as always. And that dispel actually makes us a little awkward, but hopefully... Huh. We'll see if he wants to get in with the U's. I can only imagine that's the only reason he let me eat him. I'm quite close to actually dispelling my dispel on the hero's downfall, though. I'm assuming they don't have very many outs now Assassin's Trophy is gone, and it's basically coming down to Abrupt Decay, which opponent doesn't seem to be drawing. Yep, there it is. There goes green-black. So currently back up to 2-2. Like I said, in my playtesting I went 4-1 with this. I was actually expecting to do significantly better. The only match that I lost against was Valakut, and it's because it's really hard to interact with Valakut. If they get one on the battlefield before you can Unmortigo, it doesn't go very well. Meanwhile, we can just pick apart the core strategies of any of the other decks that rely on a single card insanely well with Unmortigo, or we can lock down creature matchups, and we can Unmortigo something like Deputy of Detention and the new blue-white tempo list that look like spirits and humans, and all of them just kind of crumble to pieces under a bridge. Alright, 4 mana, a couple of 3-drops. This is rough because I can't tell if this is keepable or not. But the general rule of thumb in Modern is if you're waiting until turn 3 to do something, you're going to lose. We are on the draw, which means we can draw into any of our 1-mana interaction spells. We can also mulligan into some of our 1-mana interaction spells. We have all the pieces that we want here, though. We can Unmortigo to take away something they care about. Kaya behind a bridge is going to eventually win us a game. I'm going to be greedy and keep it. I'm going to hope that our draws go well. An opponent did mulligan pretty quickly. Decides to keep 6. And scries to the bottom. And we're about to get discarded. Alright, well, slower matchups are fine for us. We're going to lose something we care about here. Depending on what it is, Urborg typically tells me 8 rack. And if it's 8 rack, then that will be rough, but Unmortigo can snag either the rack or it can snag... I'm blanking on the enchantment name. But it'll take out half the pressure on us. Alright, they took out the bridge, which means we're probably closer to Mono Black Devotion. They don't know about the path, so I'm going to start on Marsh Flats. We can path a creature if we have to here. And Bitter Blossom. Alright, it's white-black tokens again. Which means this Path to Exile is pretty much a dead card. We have a Hallowed Fountain and a Godless Shrine, which means we want a Watery Grave. Smallpox and Spellbomb. Alright, well, sir, we have Rip main board, so we'll take Smallpox. And then they only have a Spellbomb. I can't imagine I want to path anything here. I'm going to be conservative again and just not hold up path. They're going to have to draw probably a champion for me to care, and even then we'll have our turn to interact with it. Alright, well that's a thing. I actually think I'm just on Rip. It'll make it so that I can trip off the Spell Bomb. And then I'm going to be looking at a single fairy. And I'm guessing I'm actually supposed to be naming Lingering Souls off of this. I mean, we already shut down the graveyard, but... Gideon of the Trials. Alright, so what do I actually want to name with this Unmorty Ego? I really don't care about Sorin. Spectral Procession's probably going to be the most annoying. Intangible Virtue is going to make their creatures big, and we're eventually going to find another bridge. Bitter Blossom's going to kill them. Vault of the Archangel is going to give them lifelink, which is going to be annoying, but hopefully they won't be attacking very long. Secure the Waste is probably the biggest threat, but it's a one of. Blue, black, 1. And I'm guessing it's Spectral Procession. Intangible Virtue is also going to be annoying, but I think I can deal with most of that. But Spectral Procession in one turn is going to be 3/1/1 flyers. I don't know, Volt's probably going to be the most annoying. Let's just go for Intangible Virtue, because if we don't see a bridge, it's probably going to be the fastest ways that we lose. They have a Kaya of their own. Interesting. So I had no idea what they're on. They're on Black-White Super Friends. They do have the Lingering Souls, 2 Kayas, multiple Gideons, Smallpox. They don't even have the Spectral Procession. Alright. Put it back on opponent. First half of Lingering Souls. Ooh, Shambling Vents. Alright, well, I wanted to get this Gideon with this Path to Exile, so thank you, opponent. Bye, Gideon. We are on a 3-turn clock, though, going down to 2 after this attack, so not in the best position, but... I guess that buys us a turn. So of note, we're taking 2 here and then 3 with the Shambling Vent and the Fairy Rogue, so cracking the Marsh Flats isn't going to change the clock at all. Not statistically relevant, but going to try to take a land out of the deck. And another Rip doesn't do it. Alright, going back to their deck. They showed us a single Surgical Extraction, multiple Smallpox, a Lily, a Kaya. Bitter Blossom is a 2 of in their deck, but we got wrecked by it. Probably a lot of the spot removal coming out, and they're relying on the Gideons to win the game. So 100% bringing in the Hero's Downfall. Zealous Persecution will snag all the tokens. Meddling Mage can name a lot of problem cards. I honestly don't think we need the Rip. They're probably taking out any of the cards that rely on the graveyard, seeing as we're mainboard Rip. Surgical Extraction would be annoying from their side, but I don't really think it changes the clock at all. Just Lingering Souls, discard, Pox, and Planeswalkers. I think Teferi comes in, and maybe Kaya's Wrath. Zealous Persecution is better. I'm guessing that's the cut. Push gets significantly worse. We just need a bridge to stick. In their sideboard, they might have Anguished Unmaking, but they're more likely on Disenchant. As far as 2 cuts, Fathom Feeder feels bad. It can't profitably block a Gideon because it prevents damage or becomes indestructible. And we're probably not going to use it to draw cards. Teferi's in here to tuck a Planeswalker. And Inquisition, to Collective Brutality, Meddling Mage, name whatever's in hand, and hopefully draw 2 lands for Teferi. This looks alright. They're going to be a little slow to start up. Alright, Inquisition, Smallpox, Kaya, and Lily. So take Inquisition here and then take Smallpox with the Brutality. Maybe keeping Rip in should have been consideration because they likely weren't taking Lingering Souls out, but we brought in multiple cards that can clear them out of the way. Sorry, buddy, but that's a whiff. So they have Lingering Souls, Lily, a Godless Shrine, Kaya. Oh, and perfect timing on that Zealous Persecution. No Lily for you. Not terrible timing on the path. Oh, they had another Lingering Souls. Alright, that works for me. Lame. I just want to land. Alright, so Lingering Soul's likely getting flashed back here. They're not going to let Kaya die, just to let Kaya die. Yep. Boom, baby. Alright, so we are currently ahead, and actually ahead by quite a bit. So Teferi's coming down to try to lock up that position. Of note, Unmortigo can actually snag Lingering Souls out of the bin. It's a little late for that, but it can happen. And they did have the Anguished Unmaking. Alright, so land into Tezzeret, tutor up Bridge is going to make it so that only the spirits can attack. They currently have nothing damaging their life total, and they're going to have 4 spirits, but Unmortigo now to hit Anguished Unmaking means we're taking 2, and then Tezzeret can tutor, but if they have discard, Tezzeret goes away. I think I'm on Bridge, just highest upside. If they don't have another Anguished Unmaking in their next draw, we're pretty solid. And I don't care if they spend their turn getting rid of Tezzeret. He doesn't do anything but tutor Bridge. He can technically get EE if I want him to, but they seriously had the other one? Alright. Well, the Unwished Unmaking is actually making their clock pretty bad for themselves. And we're currently ahead in the race, which means I'm kind of okay with Kaya. As long as I get rid of the extra Lingering Souls in the bin, it means that they're going to have to stay on defense. Alright, then anything else I need to be aware of sideboarding for? They have a Camball, which is annoying. They brought in Fulminator Mage, it doesn't really affect us. And that's about it. No more Anguished Unmakings. They drew the 2. That is so frustrating. Yep, that's a thing. If the opponent didn't damage themselves so much this game, I'd consider actually wanting Creeping Tar Pit in this deck. But basically, if I draw a Bridge, this is locked up. Meanwhile, we're on a 3-turn clock, 2 after this turn. I'd love to stop drawing lands. This deck only needs 3. Kaya is an interesting one. So, what does Kaya mean? Unfortunately, I don't think it means anything. It means that I have to attack in. I can -1 and get rid of a spirit, and that'll buy a turn. Yep, that's unfortunate. But it means I either have to attack Kaya or I take the other spirit away. Yep. He's going to take the spirit away, still on a 3-turn clock. think Gideon changes the math at all. In fact, that was actively bad for our opponent. So, opponent activates Gideon. I have to stay on defense. Path to Exile can take out Gideon. Meddling Mage is on chump block duty. Kaya can't really take care of any permanent threat. I just need a bridge. If I get a bridge, I win. But that means Meddling Mage is going to die, and opponent's going to be able to cast Lily. They've also been squatting on this Kaya, and I have no freaking clue why. Meddling Mage had to stay on defense because of discard. Now Kaya finally comes down. Unfortunately, that Kaya can kill us using the exact same strategy we've been using, so I've got to knock her down a peg. They get their redraw, get a hit us for 2, gain 2, use Kaya, exile a couple of cards. Well, that doesn't do much. May as well take the Bitter Blossom. And I think we have one turn. Because what's going to happen is opponent's going to attack and we're going to go to 1. We draw a bridge. We play the bridge and then we draw a Kaya and we'll be ahead by 1 card. I guess that means Meddling Mage can still chump block for a turn. Alright, that's game. Kind of an unfortunate showing for the deck. We actually didn't cash out when I was very close to a flawless victory test running it with a less tuned strategy. But this does feel like it has some potential. I don't believe that this was a very good showing for it, and we did play some fringe decks that beat us. We ended up losing to 4-color Death Shadow of all things. Basically red, green, splash, black elves, and black-white tokens. If we can get a bridge to stick, this deck is very good. And that's kind of why we end up having the one Tezzeret in the side. It's to be bridge number 5. There could be potentially better cards to get with Tezzeret, or potentially just better cards to have instead of Tezzeret. But we need that bridge. The games that we have the bridge are pretty decisive. We win, and the games that we don't, we lose. The spells on the side don't feel great. They need to be proactive, not reactive for the strategy. We are very much block control. A lot of the blue cards in here probably actually shouldn't be in here the more I'm looking at this list, because the Meddling Mages were bad. It just gave our opponents who kept in creature removal for whatever reason a target to kill a creature. The Dispels are bad to hold up. The Teferi's against the game plan of bridge. Serum Visions was really nice to set up our draws, and we need blue for Ashiok, so that might be the only card that we keep in here. Fathom Feeder did actually do insanely relevant things in the dry run. Being able to block a Death Shadow and having your opponent be like, well, I can't really attack into the Fathom Feeder, is buying you turns is actually very good, because it buys you turns to draw into your Ensnaring Bridge. It also is giving you another way to start exiling cards off the top of your opponent's library when you are a pseudo mill deck. Our Graveyard Hate potentially might just need to be Ravenous Trap, not Rest in Peace. I really like Rest in Peace mainboard right now, though. So many of the strategies are abusing it. Even Black-White Tokens, which is about as fair of a deck as you can get in Modern at the moment, is using Lingering Souls and Nihil Spell Bombs. Like, we were able to shut that strategy down in game one and be able to take it, but it just, the graveyard is just super abused right now. The top decks are Affinity, Hardened Scales Affinity, Blue Red Phoenix, and Dredge. And Blue Red Phoenix and Dredge are both stopped hard by Rest in Peace. If you can shut out 15% of the meta by a main deck card that you're not using your graveyard at all, it feels like it's worth the consideration. If we are running Tezzeret, we probably want Relic or Grafdigger's Cage, but those don't feel nearly as good. Relic can exile cards, which is relevant for Kaya. But Tezzeret is just double blue, and blue doesn't feel like it fits this deck very well. Kaya's Wrath does feel like the board clear of choice. It's nice that it can't be countered, but that's only relevant in Merfolk and Spirits at the current moment. We can run Kaya's Wrath, we can run Wrath of God, we can run Damnation, Day of Judgment. If we want to try to keep up the name cards separately for humans, we have multiple choices there, and it doesn't need to be Supreme Verdict. Potentially more discard. I feel like I cut some of the cards when I did my second playthrough. Collective Brutality was one that I trimmed on. I think I cut a Inquisition, but the discard is really good to stop the initial game plan, and then Unmoored Ego will take out whatever their silver bullet is and just allow you to kind of just sit back and do your thing. It's really sad we went 2-3 with this deck, because this deck was really good. I was half expecting a 5-0 just because Unmoored Ego is actually insanely strong. I highly underestimated that card when I first saw it. Being able to pull out any card that we name is just so good. Like, I was able to call Tron, I was able to call Deputy of Detention, I was able to call Reclamation Sage, and it just stopped their ability to interact with us. And then you have to win off of Valakut, you have to win off of Creature Beats. If I land an Ensnaring Bridge, you can't get past it. You can't go tutor up your one sideboard piece to actually be able to take out what you need to. It's just such a good card, and being able to win off of Planeswalkers getting you value is so good. We didn't play against Burn, but gaining 2 life a turn against Burn when you're pushing their creatures and inquisitioning away what they care about, like, you get long game where you don't expect it, and it's just, there's a lot of pieces here, and it can work. It's probably not on my short list to figure out, but Kaya and Ashiok are a very good combo together, and Ashiok is a very fun card. Like, she's just so good. We could have put in a Snapcaster Mage our opponent controlled. We could have put a Thing in the Ice in. We took a Geist, and if I would have waited a turn for that push, we would have actually just closed the game out with their own Geist. Like, Tezzeret's a bad card in this, but Kaya's super good. And like I said, this can 5-0. There's something here, but this might not be the opportune build. And we lost to Fringe decks tonight, which was just so unfortunate. We beat a lot of the tier decks, but we lost to Fringe decks. But yeah, this is fun. Something here. If you have the prison pieces, I'd give it a shot, see where you're heading towards. I think the only necessary thing is the bridge and the Unmoored Ego, which is sad, but everything else is just interact. It's kind of like a toolbox deck. Depending on what you're expecting to face, you can put more in or take more out. I do like main board EE as something to put on the board and hold control. We saw the value of that against Green Black, where we'd like put out EE for 2, and they had to shut down their entire game plan and just stop running out creatures, and they were just running out of skews to deal with the graveyard and not able to commit until we blew it. Tap out control. This is a home. Well, everyone, thanks for watching. Sorry it didn't turn out as well as I thought it would. Like, it did very well in testing, but I guess I'll catch you later.